switching now. Well, I will say, well, actually, before I switch, I'll just do an introduction. So,
well, I'd like to start first of all by thanking Marilyn very much for stepping in at such short notice to do this Zoom demo for us. She came highly recommended by Stuart. But also, I have to say, I've done a couple of your workshops before, Marilyn, and was very inspired.
Thank you.
But perhaps you'd like to give us a little biography before we get through.
Well, I don't really know what to say, but I love teaching art, and it's something that I've done for quite a few years now. I love all mediums, not just watercolour, but I like mixed media and acrylics. I've written a few books. I've got a YouTube channel that you're all welcome to have a look at. Please join as members, because one day I'll get paid if I get enough members. But I think that might be one of those dangling carrots that never happens, but I'm trying. But it's nice to sort of do stuff like that. Anything you can think of? We do a lot of kits and materials now that we didn't used to do since COVID. So do have a look at my website. There's a lot of stuff on there.
Including some fantastic brushes.
Yes, amazing brushes that are on offer too. So, what more could you want? Okay, I will switch now to what we're going to demonstrate. It's a scene from Cartagena in Colombia. I didn't get very far off the ship, to be honest, but we got to a zoo that was in the port, and we sat down with some lovely coconut drinks and photographed all these wonderful flamingos and parrots and stuff right up close, and it was such an opportunity, and I've been itching to paint them, so that's what we're going to start with today. Right, now at the moment that looks quite white, but when I start to get some paint on there, it will start to be a little bit different. This is what I'm working from. Hold on, I probably need to keep that. I'll just move that out of the way. You might have had it on your screen too, I'm not sure. Okay, so aren't they wonderful? And they were up close, and I thought I've just got to paint these, and I want to do them in a very loose way. And I'm sort of thinking that a blue background might be sort of better than all this green on this occasion. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I always like to use a French ultramarine blue. It's sort of quite transparent. So we use that, and I'm just testing it on a piece of paper. So that's the blue. And then I'm wondering what colour to do the flamingos. So before I start, I have got some opera rose that I thought might be quite nice, or it might be too bright. So we'll just try a little bit of that against that blue. Yeah, that's quite nice. And I'd probably be doing my darker shades with a mauve. Yeah, I think that could work well. But we won't just try that, we'll try another colour. I've got some rose madder. And I'm thinking that's probably far too red anyway. Could put a little bit of yellow ochre in that. Yeah, I think I quite like this colour better than the opera rose. It's stronger. So I think that's the one that we'll go for. And that also works with that French ultramarine. I'll just put that to one side. So the first thing I'm going to do is get some of the background on. So let's just show you my lovely clean palette. French ultramarine blue. Let's put some there. Some water. And I don't know, let's take it not right up to the edges. The paper I'm using is actually a Cardi, and it's a very fine one, so I've stretched it. I'm going to have to go over these next, because if I don't, we're not going to have a very good wash, it's going to be very bitty. I don't think the splashes will hurt, to be honest. Take that over the legs. I've got a plan for those too. Maybe something a bit darker here and there. Add some more water in places. Ooh, I've hit some pink. I don't think that matters. And what I don't want is bits of white running through where we don't want them. I'm just making sure that I've got nothing where I want to keep it very white, because that could be a bit of a problem. I think that's quite a nice wash. It's a bit like painting doors. And let's get a little bit of, I think we'll put some of that Opera Rose into the bottom, although we're not actually using it in the Flamingos, but it's nice and light. And it will just give a pinky feel. Let's take off the water from the brush and that should be very subtle. That's the idea. Now before I do any more, I really need to dry that very, very well. But just make sure nobody else is trying to come in as well. No, I think that's it. Now I have been very careful to get that very dry. This paper's quite thin. It's a Cardi Rough and it's only 45 grams, so it's very, very lightweight. So I wanted it to be really dry. But the first thing we need to do, I think, is get this one in. Here's our main sort of focal point. Let's use size 16 brush for him, and I'll mix up some of that permanent rose madder with a little bit of cadmium red, with a little bit of raw sienna. And so just mixing it there. And then I can take some of that and I could add a lot more water to it. Now that's quite a strong colour really. So lots of water going in there for the lighter bits. And let's just look, sort of quite light there. This is the blobby stage. And what I don't want to do is fiddle too much. Right, now the thicker paint, just dab some of the water off onto tissue and it's a bit darker than it is in reality, but that doesn't matter. Now, please ask questions. Now, before I go any further up there, what I want to do is just get in some of that really dark that we've got on the tips of the wings. So I'm going to mix Prussian blue and rich sepia together. And if I catch it quickly, hopefully some of this will run. Drying very quickly. Just love the dark bits that are on these. And I'm trying just to get that edge of sort of feathers that, as they were sort of spreading their wings. It was absolutely gorgeous. I think of performance just for us. Maybe darken that through there a little bit. Okay, and now for the neck. I just wanted to get that in. I wanted it just to run a little bit. Clean my brush. And it's quite a strong head, really. Sort of a bit of that red there. Let's just drip some of that thicker mix in here and there. And remember, this is our blobby bit, so we can do more to that. That can be drying. I think we'll do the legs sort of a bit later. But one thing I do need is that little bit of dark that's on the end of his beak too. So I've just got a size 10 brush. And that is the Prussian blue, a rich sepia. And that can be drying. So here's our sort of focal point. And now I can just sort of work my way around the others and then decide how we're going to create more movement. I photographed these when their feathers were flying rather than the sort of more traditional way, and I think it's just, I just love that. I hope it works. Right, let's do this little fellow here. I can tell it's one because he's only got 2 legs. Ooh! Don't panic. Just dab that. It's quite light there. The neck's not so dark on him, sort of further back. If you're not sure what you can see, just paint that. Go a little bit darker now. Sort of dark triangle there. Now we can add more bits into those because, like I said, this is the blobby stage. So we can add more bits in as we go along. Do I want the darks? Yes, let's stay with the little brush for the darks. That might save the accidents. Put that in once that's wet. You just pop the beaks in and you can see exactly what they are, can't you? All sorts of stuff going on here. Very light, so keep that just touching that paper. I love all the different shades and things, and it's just a muddle, and I thought, well, I'll just try and paint it as that muddle. I'll probably paint it quite a lot of times, to be honest, because it's such a lovely subject. Some of these heads are a little bit stronger, so the thicker paint. And I'm just desperately concentrating not to be too detailed. I'm not sure what that bit is there, so let's just paint it as we see it. Back to our dark mix. Any more dark ones? Yeah, I think there's probably a few there. They're not so dark, but just using the tip of the brush. And then we've got a lot of legs to go in. So already I think that's a bit of a flock going on behind. Right, our next one. It's nice and light, so watercolour. Always lots more water when you want it lighter, lots more pigment and less water when you want it darker. Nothing's very dark at the moment, so I think I'm getting away with just using that and not a mauve for the shadow. Something dark there. Yeah, I'm happy with this, how this is coming on. Maybe I should start there and work that way before I smudge everything. So a very watery mix, light sort of hitting that on the back. And where it gets darker, there's darker feathers, just sort of bleed that in. Now that, his head's hiding somewhere, but then this is another flamingo here. This is a different one, a little round body. And then this one. We've got another one here as well. Was that part of him? No, a lot of them are actually dipping their heads down, so that's another body there. Let's just do that nice and light. So mainly water. Keep that very light. And then that main one in front that we can see a lot better, that's quite dark, so a lot more pigment. Aren't they lovely, those feathers? Right, let's get the dark in quickly. I can see some bits that perhaps are very dark in shadow, so I'm going to use the intense violet for that. Just underneath his tummy. And that's what comes around there, just squinting. If you're not sure where the darks are, just squint. Get a bit of that in here too. Just using the tip of the brush. It's not so dark. I don't think there's anything much dark there. Yeah, so it just sort of makes them a little bit more three-dimensional. And let's go for that lovely beak again in that really dark colour. It looks a bit pink on my painting, but I'm changing it to a dark one. Why not? because they just look so nice. So you can see, you can only see 2 heads, but there's more bodies and more legs. Right, that fellow there now. So a watery mix. And it gets a little bit thicker as we come down. Very thick underneath the wings. Trying not to make the necks too thick. Just one little wobble and he's got a problem. And he's going to have a dark beak. This little fellow flapping around again. Start with the lighter bits. Lots of water. Trying to keep it as loose as I can to get that effect of just lots of things going on. And then the thicker paint. On this little guy. And they're certainly filling up the paper, aren't they now? It's lighter on the back. And get a little bit of mauve. I like that mauve. Put a bit there too. Just makes it interesting. And the beaks. So at this point I'd sort of step back from it. And I think I'll dry it and then get the legs in. And then we can also put any little bit of detail and that we want to go on there. But I don't want to spoil it by putting too much. But let's just try it and see what happens. Right, so just our card, I think, for our legs. And I want something quite dark, but slightly red. So I'm going to mix just a little bit of the intense violet into that permanent rose madder. And yeah, I think that might be perfect. So all I've done, I've mixed it on here, put it onto my brush, and then I just run that along the edge of the card. And to get them thicker, just drag that over a little bit if you want to. And then we've got those knobbly knees.
Doing this one next.
Run that along again. And their joints are really strange, aren't they? And let's clean up that size 10 brush. A little bit of permanent rose madder for those webbed feet. Can't really see what's going on. Don't worry if you can't. We'll just paint what we can see. There's a bit of a dark shadow there. Right, if your card is too long, you can either cut it or you can just put paint along half of the edge. So let's just do those top bits. In fact, I wonder if I ought to put the knobbly bits in first so that we know where to go to. And again, just half of it. Oop. That was too big a half. But that won't matter. remind me if I forget, we're going to turn that bit into a reflection. So. Right, knobbly knees. There's legs coming out of everywhere. Definitely looks better with the legs, don't they? Oh, knobbly knees, that just helps me to place it before I start. Top of the card. More paint on there. Some of these I might make into reflections too. I bet we find some that we've missed. Those legs are just gorgeous, aren't they? Alright, I'm just sort of looking back from it, and I think we need a little bit of detail on the wings and things, but not too much, and that's always the danger. So with that purpley mix that we've mixed with the permanent rose, the raw sienna, and I've added a little bit of intense violet into it to get a dark that isn't too dark. And so just see if I can show you. So you've sort of got that much darker in tone mix. And I'm just using the tip of the brush, and we can put things in like eyes. A little bit of detail, but not too much. Because I want to keep it really loose. Let's do these from behind first. Now that one's quite a dark shadow going down there. Not so dark there, but lots of wing. It's a little bit darker too. And just checking everywhere. That's probably all the detail I need to do in those. They're sort of quite distant. We have got a dark line there. Here's the only one I'm doing sort of a little bit more detail on, but still not detailed. sort of indications of feathers. But it's more about the movement than anything else. I think that's more than enough for him. A little bit of feather movement going on there. And I've forgotten some legs. That could be quite important. I love the way those legs stand. It's almost like a little toddler, isn't it? Okay. That's quite nice. I missed, and I actually like the movement in that. That's one of those happy accidents. A little bit of dark here. Oh, this one's dancing. I don't think I want more detail on them than that, but I do need something more on the paper, I think, to fill it in. Now, I quite like a few reflections there, and I've sort of indicated that they're all in water, but that's very shallow water there. Or does it really matter? Let's get a few reflections in and see where we're coming from. Something very pale. Permanent rose, a little bit of that raw sienna, and a lot of water. Okay, let's see what happens. I wasn't expecting that. So get the reflections all coming through. Yeah, I think I quite like that pink going on everywhere. So let's take that through. The thing is, with paintings that I've never done before, you can sort of keep painting and they keep evolving, which I think is rather nice. Got that sort of leg. Right, how to create more movement in there. So we want some splatters. I think some splatters might be quite nice. Let's go for a French ultramarine blue rather than something too dark to start with. So again, just mix it so it's sort of, it'll come off your brush, and then just splatter here and there. And that will mix in with some of that reflection bit, which will sort of join those colours together. I don't want to overdo it, which I could quite easily. Just add that. Those bits might run. Okay, I think what I will do is I will dry this and then see if there's anything else that it needs. And it looks a lot darker on your screen than it does in front of me. Okay, yeah, I'm really happy with that. It looks a lot stronger on the TV screen, a lot sort of darker red than it is in reality. It's very pink, what I painted, but once that's really dry, I usually give it another day, then all these pencil marks and things I will then take out, and that sort of gives it that really loose impressionistic feel. Now I'll just come back and you can ask some questions, and then I suggest after we have a question break we take a break for 10 minutes for the toilet, coffee, and I'll swap over the paint.
Will you fill the gap? Very well.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting listening.
With a lighter paper, do you take it to a board even though you've stretched it?
No, you don't need to. It's quite a heavy duty board, and no, that's adequate. It's probably about not half an inch thick, but more than a quarter. So it's quite a solid board for painting on. So that just goes straight onto my easel.
Right.
And you can, but I mean the other way you can do it is to use gum blocks, where it's I think it's a 200 something paper, and that way it's gummed all around the edges, so it's a slightly thicker paper but not really thick, and that way you can paint each one and take it off and it's stretched. So lots of options. I don't want to overwhelm you, but if I'm using a quarter imperial, which is a smaller one than this, half the size, I'll use a gum block. But if it's a bigger paper, then you've got to stretch it. So I think my assistant here is getting a gum block to show you. It's handy, isn't it, having somebody around? So that's what we've got. That's half the size of what I've been painting on, and it's gummed all the way around the edge. And so you just put a knife in there, slip that picture off when you're done, and yeah.
You make it sound very easy.
It is easy. When I'm filming, I tend to use that a lot because I can draw. I've got about 20 of them on the side, all the drawings on, and you just draw straight onto it, use it, take it off, and you're ready to draw again. So it depends how easy you want to make it. But for demonstrating, I like to demonstrate bigger rather than tiny, because I think it just looks a little bit better on the camera and everything. And it's nice to have different sizes. You don't want the same size painting all the time. The next one I've got planned privately is a collage. I like the one that was in the Artist and Illustrator of King Charles, but it's for my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. They got married 2 years ago. It's taken me rather a long time to get round to it. But that's my plan for next week, to do that, and that is really big. I've actually got to join some pieces of paper together to do that, but I do like painting big too. So lots of options and lots of fun with experimenting. Right, shall we go back to what we're going to do? This time we are in Mexico, and I don't know if it's really typical to Mexico, but I was filming seals on the harbour side, and along came this pirate type ship, obviously commercial and touristy, but it looks so elegant, and so I thought that's what we might paint. I'm not too sure whether to do the blue sky and sort of the harbour side around it, or to do a more mystical, sort of misty look with a sort of more colourful sky and the water. I really can't decide. Is there a sky that you would prefer me to paint on this occasion?
No.
You don't mind? You don't care, do you?
No.
I'll have a think about it as I go over and look at the painting. Okay, so I'm going to switch and I'm going to mute you all, but please ask questions. I don't mind you interrupting with questions. That's always good. Okay. Right, well, it's gone very, very quiet now. And isn't this lovely? See if you can see the reference. Now, I think the thing that we don't want to do is to put all these tourists in. Is that they would be very easy to paint, and we could paint them in about 2 minutes, all the little heads and the bodies and things. Well, I don't think that would sort of be quite right. Now, I can show you how to do a nice big sky. We'll do that anyway, and we'll put some background in. Why not? So, to do that, we need to wet quite a lot of it. And also, I need to keep some of the paper white. I think we'll have it much darker at the top. I quite like these buildings that are in the back. Let's see, we could have been painting seals. And then take that down into the sea, because I think whatever we do for the sky, we've got to reflect into the sea, haven't we? Okay. Right. Now, that's clear water that I put over it with a big brush. Let's get a little bit of red in, light red. No, we won't. First of all, let's get some sunshine in. It was very sunny, just a very clear sky. So, let's just bring through a little bit of sunshine. So this is completely artistic license. And I'm guessing if we've got that up there, we've probably got to reflect a bit of that down here. That should be enough. Okay. I think now some blue. Let's go for some French ultramarine blue. I want it quite strong at the top as it is in the original picture. Be careful that we don't mix that too much, or we could end up with a green. I'm guessing this might start looking a bit stormy. Oh, and I didn't want to paint that, that's buildings. Tap it out. Take that right over as well. We don't want like a white halo, do we, around that ship. And we need some of that blue, just a little bit darker, into the sea. Let's get a little bit of red into the light red. Working very quickly whilst it's wet. And just underneath this dark, like a little bit of sort of cloud. Sort of mixing on the paper a little bit. Well, it's a totally different sky than we had in reality, that's for sure. But always handy to know how to do one like that. Okay, I think I'm going to dry that really well, and then we'll get some of those background buildings in. So bear with me whilst I put the hairdryer on. Okay, So that has split a little bit there, but that's not going to affect what we're doing. Let's get those background buildings in, and we want to do those really, really quick. And so let's just look roughly at the colours. And I'd say there was a raw sienna, there's some green, there's a bit of yellow, a bit of red, light red, a grey. So I sort of want to get those shapes in, but just really, really quickly. Now the other thing you might notice, if you see on the picture, there's a block of flats and things behind the ship. And I haven't put that in because I thought that might make it look a bit like a container ship. So I've just been a little bit careful not to put too much behind here. Let's start with the light reds, and we'll keep it sort of quite wet and loose. So there's sort of roofs and just keeping it so loose. And then some grey. Let's mix some French ultramarine blue with some burnt umber. Always a good shadow colour. And we can sort of join up those bits. And make a green, some lemon yellow with a little bit of Prussian blue, I think. Keep it quite blue to keep it in the distance. Sort of trees, and what we're not wanting is detail. Okay, now there are some dark windows. Prussian blue, rich sepia. Put that in whilst that's wet. Something dark along the edge. There could be shop faces or... The key thing is not to overthink it. Just be very loose. And I think that's probably enough for that side. Do exactly the same the other side. And how quick was that? Oh, we've got a sort of yellowy raw sienna type building here. I did do a little bit of plein air painting here, and what I found was because it was so humid, although it was very, very hot, that the paint wasn't actually drying, and it made a really nice effect on the paper. I was really pleased with it. That goes up to the red bits there. Got a little bit of greenery. Be a little bit darker. Have some greenery there. I'm not worrying too much about all the light and darks and that. That doesn't matter for that sort of thing. A little bit of red. That's light red. And a few windows with that sepia and the Prussian blue. Now, if they start to dry, that's fine, and if they don't, they just sort of blend in everywhere. Don't do it exact, we're just sort of creating, your brain will fill in the rest. And I think that will be enough for that. So when the ship goes in, it should look good. So I'm just going to dry that again because I don't want my ship running in to my background. But that was very quick, wasn't it? Just deep breath and go for it. where do we start with this lovely ship? There's so much on there. Now, I could have masked out straight lines with masking fluid and kept those masks very white, but I thought it doesn't really matter because we can put a dark mark on there, and it doesn't matter if it's white or dark. We get the same sort of feeling in the end. So I think the first thing to do is to get those red stripes in here and to get some of the body of that boat in. Now it's quite a bright red. Let's pop all the red bits in. So let's go for a cadmium red, and I'm going to mix that with a little bit of alizarin crimson. Excuse me. Okay. Now I'm just putting this in so that we can see where we're going with that. For the moment, I'm not sure about those red buoys, but I thought they looked quite pretty, so I've put them in. Try and leave a little bit of white on there. The light's catching it. So much hanging over the edges of this too. Well, it's got to be, hasn't it? The rich sepia and the Prussian blue. So we mix that quite thick. That's our Prussian blue, lots of it, and the rich sepia. So not a lot of water, but lots of paint. And hopefully that will be enough. It goes a little bit grey up there. I'm not going to worry too much about the writing. It could be any name. Just a few squiggles. And any ropes that are hanging over that are lighter, I might just use some white gouache for that. Needs to be lighter in a minute. Let's just do the very darks. Shape in. Now we will need to remember these colours because we want to do a little bit of a reflection down. Just to make it lighter on the end, a bit of clear water on your brush. Pour that out, that's a little bit lighter. And we can actually use that for that bit too. So I think anything that I want to come over the side, I might just add white, where it's going to be really difficult. Just mixing up some more dark, the rich sepia, and whatever you can see, just paint those shapes. I've got a couple of people in here. comes out like that. Let's come through there, because with all those people you can't actually see what's behind there. I think that might be an anchor. And I thought we'd have a pirate. I've taken the actual height of the man that stood up. And some member of crew sort of there. It just gives us perspective to put that in. Now, a little bit more red. You don't have to be fussy about that. I just love those blotches of red here and there. And this lovely basket. And I'm looking at shapes more than it. Lots of detail. Looks a bit thicker and darker on the end. They're sort of cylinder shapes. And that's sort of what catches your eye. That's a bit thicker there. Paul, can I ask you to find me some white gouache? Okay. I'll leave the reflections, I think, until last. We've got quite a lot of rigging going on, and we've got some flags. So I think the next thing to do is to get some of this rigging in and these main masts. So I'm going to use the card. It's great for so many things. So although it's white, we're doing it dark so it shows up. And if you want it thicker, just sort of pull that along. Great masts. And I'm going to get covered in this. Right, so we don't have to do all the rigging, but some of it will be nice to include. Just run your card along. And if it starts to sort of fade out, that doesn't matter. I quite like these step ladder ones. That's 1, 2, and another one there. And then you've got a little bit of rigging there. Something that comes there. You don't have to do every single one. In fact, it's better not to. Okay, now again, these step ladders, just a few marks here and there with the tip of your brush. I'm not sure what's behind, but we need to fill something in, so that will do. I'm getting covered in paint here. Okay, let's get some of those flags on there. And they're red. Red is really good. Just a alizarin crimson. Sort of catch that movement. And some of those are sort of mauve colours, so into that red just add a little bit of the French ultramarine blue, or use a mauve. I'm going to dry that before I put the reflection in. Right, my other two little people on there, let's give them some sort of oil-skinned yellowy coats. And some dark hair. Okay. Right, I think the next thing is the reflection. So a nice big brush. What have I done with it? So my big brush. Some of that colour that we've got, the rich sepia and the Prussian blue, and we will also put some red into that. I've watered it down a little bit more, take that right up to that ship's bottom. And get that reflection in. And I'll just dip into the red. Okay, so I better try that and then we can put ropes and things coming off of that. Usually at the edge of a ship you've got a very dark bit where it joins the water, so just get some thicker paint and just sort of pull that out a little bit there. A few waves. Okay, happy with that. Let's get some white in. So make sure your brush is very clean, and I put some white gouache onto some separate card. And then any highlights that we need to go in. Let's just mix that from there. It messes up your paint if you get that anywhere near your paint. That's why it's there. I'm just looking for any of those lighter bits of rope that are sort of swinging over the side. Just tidy that up slightly. So much sort of hanging, it's quite tatty, isn't it? Okay. Now again, using the edge of our card, we can get some dark marks along that harbour edge. dark sort of sitting under the harbour. Oh, I think we'll leave that, don't worry. Happy accidents. Quite like to finish a painting with a card. And you can even get a little bit of that water ripple in there. Yeah, and again, I think I'm going to finish there because I think the danger is that I could do too much. But what I have got time to do is to paint a very, very quick and here she is. Isn't she lovely? Now we're going to paint her really very quick and fast. Big brush. With lots of colours. I think we might use some turquoises, some opera rose, and we'll try and paint her in about 10 minutes because she'll work really well if we do that. So I think the first thing to do is to get some skin colour in. So I'm going to mix some light red and some rich sepia, beautiful skin colour. I'm probably going to be a little bit darker than she actually is because that will just work a little bit better. Okay, now she's got a bit of shadow on her face but not too much. So just get a little bit of shape. It's a dark red. Okay, and now to the light red on its own. Quite watery. Paint those beads in afterwards. No. The light's really hitting it there, so just a damp brush. And so we've not got any features at all. But we know that that's Our Lady. So, lots of colour. Let's get those beautiful opera rose colours in. So vibrant. That is singing. And I've drawn it so that the folds are sort of, you can see where they're coming from. I'm trying to emulate that in my painting. That's not moving quite so much, so that is. And I'm trying to work so quickly that the colours sort of run. So we do that at the bottom first, then we go to the top. I think let's get some yellows in next. Lemon yellow. Picked up some green, even better. Are we creating movement, do you think? making a few colours as we're touching other things. That's fine. What other colours can we see? A little bit of turquoise there. I think we're designing new colours. I think some purples and some reds. That will be great. So purple next. I'm trying to work quick enough that the colours will run. Before it starts to dry. It's quite dark there. Oh, there's a bit of orange too, so just around the edges. So it's a nice cadmium orange. Always nice and bright. And I'm deliberately going as quick as I can to get that looseness. Sometimes it's quite good just to time yourself doing something like this. I was lucky enough to capture some of the movement. It's a bit more precise at the top. And now I can do the darks in between, hopefully whilst it's still wet. So, same dark, Prussian blue, rich sepia, working quickly. I'm hoping this will run. Don't want to overdo the darks. Pretty little shoe. Right, so we'll put a dark hair in. Same colour mix. A little bit more hair. And a little bit of red whilst that's still wet. Now, whilst that's drying, let's get some more of that colour in at the top. So it's just the colours we've used at the bottom, a little bit clearer. Let's do the orange to start with. A bit of yellow here and there. A little bit of turquoise. It's made of very random colours, isn't it? It's a bit of mauve down this side. A bit of red. I might try to get the beads in afterwards. And some of those darks. Well, there's certainly lots of movement there. Let's get a shadow in and then I'll dry her and see if we need to do much more detail. I think we just use the watery down shadow of that French ultramarine. Right, and the hairdryer. I'll just see. So a nice dark, rich sepia Prussian blue. That's that bit of material that's keep up to there. Lovely shape. Just that sort of movement. I think we better give her some quite bright red beads. Otherwise they're just not going to show up. A bit of white gouache, that might be handy. Got so many beads on. A little bit of raw sienna too. I don't want to kill her face by putting on too much detail, but I do think we might need to put an eye and an eyebrow in, so just very carefully. A little bit of sepia and just the shape of the nose there. We can bring that down to a bit of the mouth. That's all I need. I think if I did any more than that, you just wreck the face. Just dab that. Now I want some movement behind there. That looks very bland. So with my size 10 brush, or any size brush, let's get some of the Opera Rose. Nice wettish brush, and Such an easy way to get movement. And sort of filling in that background nicely. I don't think I'll add any more colours to that, because if I should, it's all going to be one big mess. And I just love the colour of her sort of twirling and the movements. And I just want to bring back a little bit of detail on that arm, but not too much. So a little bit of rich sepia just on the tip of the brush. Just because I think that needs to be more defined. That's probably enough. It's best to underdo rather than overdo that. And that bit's there. Yep, I think that's probably spot on. Okay, if you've any questions, I'll just come back to you. Hi. So a few memories of the last few weeks.
Lovely and bright.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Any questions?
I can't believe it's been 2 hours. You can do fantastic paintings.
It's always better to be quick with, I think, watercolour, because you get that looseness, and if you think about it too much, it starts to get a little bit tight and fiddly. But you've obviously got to give yourself enough time to think, to sort of work out what you're doing with it. But just, maybe don't overthink things. Just sort of give yourself a time and think, right, I'm going to paint that in 30 minutes and go
Well,
for
I think
it.
it's more I've got to pack away my fine brushes.
Oh yes, definitely.
You had the finest of a size 10. That would probably be the coarsest I use.
I don't use that one very much. But they've got fine points, so you can put the detail in when you want to, but you can't fiddle, because most of the time you're getting all the water in. And it's lots of watercolour, and then if you just need to tidy something with that point, you've got the point on there, but not with great detail. Any more questions? You must be tired.
Yeah, make sure they're all unmuted.
No, everybody's muted. Most people are muted at the moment.
I think you've stunned us all, Marilyn.
Oh, I was quite excited to be painting these things, because they're all new, and I think it's always nice to paint brand new things that you've not done before. And I think you can start to think, oh, well, I could do this with it, or I could turn it into mixed media. The other subject that you might have had tonight, which Paul said, no, nobody will want to do that. And I'd photographed some, they were like hydrants in Miami, and lots of metal bits with cogs and things. Lots of them on a high street. They're about 3 or 4 in different colours and quite old. And I am itching to paint that. But he said, no, nobody will be interested in that. So I went with the pretty things.
The engineer in me would like that one.
I don't always see things like as engineer. I just see it as lovely shapes and lovely colours, and that's going to make such a nice painting. And there's so many ways I can take it. But, it's just fun, isn't it? Having fun with art and just enjoying yourself with it, and not worrying too much. So what I will do with this, I've recorded it, hopefully, and then I'll just put it together and edit out all the hair drying bits, and then any members that weren't able to sort of come in, then they'll be able to watch it at another time. So
that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
I can get that to you within the next week. It's
brilliant.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Stuart's very quiet. He's not fallen asleep, has he?
No. Well, everybody else seems to have. Some of them are on mute.
I think I lost her on mute.
Thank you very much for a wonderful demonstration of the different skills that watercolour both requires, but also but benefits from. I think of your 3 paintings. Funnily enough, I like the last one the best. That's just me, and I think it's because of the speed of it and the
movement
and
in
the
it. It's unbelievable.
movement. I think that's. But it was a very a lovely picture to start off with, wasn't it? A lovely photograph.
There were some lovely dancers out that way with a lot of the Hawaiian dancers and just such lovely movement, and you just want to capture that and do it justice, really. But
Yes.
it's fun having a go.
Well, you certainly did. I can't see how I could do something quite like that in printmaking, but maybe maybe it would be good to give it a go.
I reckon you could. I reckon you could.
I think a bit of mixed rolling is probably what's required to get the depth and the variety.
It's a New Year challenge, Ruth.
I know. But, there's enough challenges, frankly.
No, it keeps us fresh, all the challenges. I think that's what you learn so much, don't you, from trying new things that you've not done before and different ways and different subjects and techniques.
Definitely.
It's giving yourself permission to play, isn't it, really?
Exactly, yes, yeah. And I want to do a lot more of that now.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and it's just been amazing.
Thank you so much.
Going to have to get my brushes out this weekend now.
Oh, yes. And if you want to join our Travelling Artists on Facebook, please post what you do on there, because you can say that you've started painting, and it'd be really great to see what you've done, especially ideas from the demonstration tonight. That would be great.
Will do.
Mm.
Right.